So electron transport chain. So electron transport chain, as you know, in series of complex, the electrons are transferred from donor to acceptor through redox reaction, and these couple this electron transfer with the transfer of protein across membrane. So this electron transfer is accompanied by the transfer of protein. Okay, and this is across the membrane. So electron transport chain is actually built up of peptides, enzymes, and other biomolecules. Simply, we can explain this electron transport chain is nothing but transfer of electron, a series of complexes. Actually, they are series of complexes that transfer electron from a donor to acceptor via through a redox reaction, and couple this electron transfer with transfer of proton across a membrane. So important role in photosynthesis and cellular respiration. And in this video, you will see the mitochondrial electron transport chain also. So the flow of electron through electron transport chain is exergonic, means the energy is released. That is, delta G is always negative, which means positive flow of energy. Okay, so energy from redox reactions create so what is the use of this electron transport chain? What is the main purpose? It is to because the energy from this redox reaction, since energy is always released, exergonic process, so this energy from this redox reactions, this create a electrochemical proton gradient. Okay, so an electrochemical proton gradient is created, and this electrochemical proton gradient drives the synthesis of ATP. As you know, ATP is synthesized from for oxidative phosphorylation with ADP, with ATP synthesis from ADP, right? So that we'll see in separate video. So basically, this is the main purpose of electron transport chain. It is nothing but for the synthesis of ATP. Energy with that redox reactions are used for the synthesis of ATP. So now aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. So in case of aerobic respiration, this flow of electron means this electron transport chain will be ending, and the final electron acceptor is a molecular oxygen. So this is the end of that particular chain. When there is a molecular oxygen, the last transfer is from a complex to flow of complex to more oxygen. The electron will, that chain will be terminating there. So in the case of anaerobic respiration, you know that there are no oxygen, right? So there will be any other acceptors like sulfates and all. Okay, now we'll generalize and see what is human ATP synthase. So yes, as we said here also, energy from this redox reaction, this creates an electrochemical proton gradient, and that particular electrochemical proton gradient drives the synthesis of ATP. Okay, this ATP synthesis, actually it is from the ADP through oxidative phosphorylation with ATP synthase. What is this ATP synthase? So we'll see this. What is a human ATP synthase? Actually, you know, the electron transport chain and the site of oxidative phosphorylation, which is the basic of ATP production. This is found in inner mitochondrial membrane. Okay, so this is found in inner mitochondrial membrane, and the energy stored from the process like respiration in these reduced compounds, these are used by this electron transport chain to pump protons into the inner membrane space or interior membrane space, generating the electrochemical gradient for inner mitochondrial membrane. No. Okay. No. In photosynthetic eukaryotes, electron transport chain is found in thylakoid membrane, and the light energy drives the reduction of components of electron transport chain and causes the subsequent synthesis of ATP. So before saying that, we'll see, okay, this is nothing but what is human ATP synthesis? It is via ATP production through oxidative phosphorylation. You know, this electron transport chain and this site of oxidative phosphorylation both are present in, or both are found in inner mitochondrial membrane, right? Yes. Now, energy stored from the process of respiration and all in its reduced form, like NADPH and FADH2 in its reduced form. This is used by this electron transport chain to pump protons into intermembrane space. Okay, to pump proton into the intermembrane space, which generates electrochemical gradient over the inner mitochondrial membrane. Means here we'll see this respiration and all, the energy from this respiration and all, these are stored in reduced compounds like NADH and FADH2. Okay, and this is used by this electron transport chain to pump protons into the interior membrane. So as we'll see in further classes, that always an electron transport is followed by a proton transfer. Means because of this, energy is released, and this energy will pump protons into the intermembrane space. So by pumping this proton into the intermembrane space, as a result, electrochemical gradient is created over this inner mitochondrial membrane. Okay, so this is the basis of human ATP synthase. And in photosynthetic eukaryotes and all, this electron transport chain is found in thylakoid membrane of chloroplast. Then light energy drives this reduction. Instead of their respiration, here light energy drives the reduction of components and of electron transport chain and causes the consequence or ATP synthesis. Okay, so this is basically human ATP synthase. Once more, you know this electron transport chain. What is electron transport chain? It is series of complex, and in this series of complex, electrons are transferred from electron donor to acceptor through redox reaction, and this is coupled with the transfer of proton across the membrane, and the energy from this redox reaction, this creates an electrochemical proton gradient which drives the synthesis of ATP. So how this electrochemical proton gradient is created, that is what we see here. Okay, means the energy from the process of respiration and all, it is stored in the reduced form, and this energy is used to pump electron into the intermembrane space, generating for electrochemical proton gradient over the inner mitochondrial membrane. In photosynthesis, instead of respiration, this light energy will drives the reduction of components and followed by subsequent synthesis of ATP. More importantly, we will see this mitochondrial electron transport chain next. This is very important. So mitochondrial electron transport chain. Basically, this is very important. You know what is generally electron transport chain is, right? Now coming to more specific eukaryotic cells which have mitochondria, and you know this mitochondria will produce ATP, and this ATP is produced from the products of citric acid cycle, fatty acid oxidation, and amino acid oxidation. So every cycle, these all are processes which are responsible for the ATP production. Now at the inner mitochondrial membrane, okay, inner mitochondrial membrane, you know there's electrons from NADH and FADH which pass through electron transport chain to oxygen and ultimately reduced to water. So this is what we said in case of anaerobic and aerobic. In case of aerobic, this electron transport chain will terminate at oxygen. So in inner mitochondrial membrane, this electrons from NADH and FADH, because the energy from the process respiration is stored in this reduced forms. Okay, so from these reduced forms, electrons are created. Like electrons from these forms pass through this electron transport chain finally to oxygen and get reduced to water. So in this first we will see in general, and then we will see each complex which involved in this mitochondrial electron transport. Okay, so electron transport chain, it consists of an enzymatic series of reactions, like electron donor and acceptors are there. Electron donor will be giving this electron to more electronegative acceptor, which in turn donate electron to another acceptor, and the process will continue until electrons are passed to oxygen. Okay, oxygen, because being the most electronegative element, this will terminate. this terminates the electron acceptor chain. Okay, so this is the chain. From donor, electron will pass to electronegative acceptor, more electronegative acceptor, and finally, and this will continues, and finally, ultimately, or until it passes to an oxygen, which is more electronegative. And this passage of electron between donor and acceptor releases energy, and this energy is used to create proton gradient, electrochemical proton gradient across the mitochondrial membrane by pumping protons into the intermembrane space through thermodynamic state that has potential to do work. So this entire process is known as oxidative phosphorylation. Since ADP is phosphorylated to ATP using the electrochemical gradient established by redox reaction of electrochemical cells. So this is basically what we'll see. We say that okay, ADP transfer to ATP, the process is oxidative phosphorylation. So what is this oxidative phosphorylation? That is what we see here. So this electron transport chain will generate energy. This energy or will generate or create a potential gradient across the mitochondrial membrane. By how this electrochemical gradient is created? It is actually electrochemical proton gradient, okay, by pumping protons into the intermembrane space, which producing a thermodynamic state that has a potential to do work. Since there is a potential to do work, there creates an electrochemical gradient, and thus what? Releasing or converting ADP to ATP, and this process is known as oxidative phosphorylation. And energy obtained from the transfer of electrons down the electrochemical chain, electron transfer chain is used to pump electrons. Like this is once again modified than saying, okay, energy obtained through transfer of electrons down the electron transfer chain is used to pump electron from mitochondrial matrix into intermembrane space, creating electrochemical potential gradient electrochemical proton gradient across inner mitochondrial membrane, and this allows ATP synthase to use flow of protons through enzyme back into matrix to generate ATP from ADP and inner phosphate. Okay, so this is the oxidative phosphorylation. So donor to acceptor electron transfer will release energy. This energy will create a potential gradient across the mitochondrial membrane. How this is created? It is due to the pumping of protons into intermembrane space. Okay, now we'll specifically see the complexes that involve in this mitochondrial electron transport. So we can see that in next.